Tim Panasic for Gibbons Motor Toys. Today we're going to make a video that's going to be a little bit different than the norm. Instead of showcasing a particular product, we're going to talk about what goes into building a boat package. So we can show you stuff that goes on behind the scenes that most often people don't see. So whether you're in the market for a new boat, a used boat, hopefully there'll be a few tips that you can pick up that'll help you in making a decision before you spend your hard-earned money on something that may not perhaps have the value that you think that it does after when you look what goes on behind the scenes. So what our techs practice is ABYCE standards. So those certification standards, which stands for the American Boat and Yacht Council, just raises the standards of how our boats are rigged. So when you look at, for instance, the wiring, how the wiring is laid out, you're going to notice that all the wires are neatly ran. We've got labels almost everywhere, and that can really be a benefit out in the field. If something goes wrong, you got a blown fuse, something quits working, having labels on the wires is something that'll really be helpful for many years to come. Some of the things that we use as an example Anchor Marine tinned wire. So that is a more expensive wire, but in the salt environment in particular, it's going to last and hold up much longer without corroding. Using the proper gauge wire, using the proper connectors, anti-seize. So we use Lanacote anti-seize protection on all fasteners. We're very particular about making sure that any dissimilar metals, that we've got isolators between them. Pretty much all of our boats have now come with a battery on-off switch. This boat's got, of course, a full complex here of switches because we've got house batteries and crank batteries. But the other thing that's also standard is, and in this boat, they're down here, is water separating fuel filters. So even our smallest boats will come with battery on-off switches so that when you're away from the boat, you can turn those switches off. You don't have to worry about your batteries going dead. And then the additional water separating fuel filter. Today, lots of issues with fuel out there, so having that first preliminary fuel filter to be able to quick and easily drain in the event that you do get water in your fuel is just something that really helps continue to give you a good experience without having many problems out in the field. Another additional feature that we've been selling lots of with lots of benefits is lithium batteries. So upgrading to lithium batteries, many advantages. First of all, the lithium batteries on average weigh approximately a quarter of what lead acid batteries weigh. They don't make any mess, there's no acid to deal with, so they're light, they're strong, and they simply work. Their capacity, what they have to offer, is unparalleled. However, it's very important that things are done correctly. If they're not, that's where you're going to hear about potential problems. So we've taken this very seriously, and like I say, we've got many boats that we're using lithium batteries on, so whether it's for powering electric bow trolling motors or your accessories in the boat as a house battery. So in this case, we're in a Kingfisher 3425. This has got the one 1280 watt-hour battery. There's room for actually two of them in here. We'll talk more as we go along here. But in a nutshell, the things with the lithium battery that are different is that they do have a dedicated charging system. So the batteries do come with a charger, so you do have to charge it with a dedicated charger. So as far as charging it in your garage, shore power, that's something to keep in mind. The beauty of this, though, is that we can charge them with our outboard motors with what's called a DC to DC charger. And that works really, really well. So that, as well as solar panels. So we'll show you a shot of the solar panels on the roof here in a second, but basically those are your options for charging. So you can have just a 110 volt plug-in charger. You can have the engines charge the batteries with the DC to DC charger, and you can combine that with the solar power. So typically, any boat that's got a hard top, lithium batteries, the option of using solar panel plus DC to DC chargers really keeps those lithium batteries charged quickly. And if you're doing overnight excursions, etc., that's where the benefits really come in. So beginning with approximately our 20-foot series boats, what we'll do with standard equipment is we will have a Mercury vessel view gauge. So on this particular boat, it's not obviously fully rigged yet, but it's got a vessel view gauge on the dash. You can see the layout, you know, what's going to happen here. We got lots of room to flush mount everything. And basically this is just going to be a continuation of what you've seen in the stern of the boat. And as you look underneath the dash, you're going to see the same, you know, neatness, tidiness of electrical that's going to carry on there. Might be a little bit dark to see, but I think that should give you an idea that you're going to see that same standard of wiring throughout. We also put a big effort into our trailers. So lots of times this is something that's easily overlooked. You know, people get drawn looking at the boat, but boy, the trailer is sure an important part of the package. And you know, everything from the ease of being able to load, unload the boat, how does it tow, you know, does it center easily when you go to load it on the trailer, etc., etc. So some of the things that you know, that we're going to be really careful with any boats that we order, whether they're for inventory or pre-sold boats, is always, you know, considering, you know, what weight of trailer you need for the boat. So typically we're going to want to have a trailer that's definitely not of underweight, that's for certain. And again, sometimes depending on customers' needs, that could vary a little bit. But typically our goal as far as tongue weight is going to be to make sure that when the boat's loaded that we're going to be in that, say, 8 to 12% of total weight is going to be on the tongue so that it tows better. As far as bunk setup, you know, it looks real simple when you see all these trailers sitting here with the bunks the way they are, but there is a lot of work and a lot of calculations, and this is stuff that we keep on file so that every trailer, every boat package, we know the height of each bunk, front, back, the distance in and out. That includes the winch post, that includes the transom straps, and then the other thing with the trailers is, of course, what type of brake system. So as you get into larger trailers, basically starting at 3,100 pound and heavier, you've got brake options, so whether they're drum brakes, disc brakes, hydraulic surge brakes, electric over hydraulic, those are all things that are really considered in each one of our packages. So in regards to steering and controls, this is a really important subject with any boat build. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start at the lower end, and what I mean lower end is just less expensive. So what we're going to use here as an example is a Stabicraft 1550 side console. So this is equipped with you know, with a mechanical steering and controls. So basically what you've got is console mount controls, but it's still important that your throttle and shift cables are adjusted properly. You still want to have as smooth a shift operation as possible. And how you achieve that is by having your runs nice and neat. So as you take a look at this boat and you go to the transom here, you can see that the steering cable, there's no kinks. Throttle and shift cables is exactly the right length. You can turn this 60 horsepower engine all the way port, all the way starboard. Everything's going to work nice and smooth. Everything's going to be adjusted properly. So here we are looking at a Coyote 195 Laker. This is equipped with a 150 horsepower. So typically, you know, mechanical cable systems are going to work up to, in our dealership, typically up to 115 horsepower. Once we get to the 150 horsepower mark, what we're going to do is we're going to up the game just a little bit. So basically what we've got is we've still got mechanical throttle and shift here. This is a panel mount control. And then as you look at the back of this boat, what we've done here is we've upped this mechanical steering to an extreme electric power steering system. So what this is basically between this and hydraulic steering, which we'll show you next, it's kind of a toss-up in terms of you know, cost, performance, etc. The advantage of the electric steering is that there is no hydraulics. You still do have a mechanical cable. We are going to jump to the next steering system, but we'll just save that for a second or two here. But again, at the end of the day, what's important to note here is looking at how neat everything is, looking at the nice smooth runs. And this is what you're going to get with this type of a setup, where everything again is just really neat and clean. Here we're in a Stabicraft 2050 Trekker, where we've actually got hydraulic steering along with now digital throttle and shift controls. So digital throttle and shift, this is a real important thing. I know that lots of our competition and lots of areas are not using digital throttle and shift. So I do want to really stress that they are definitely more money, but a lot of value there. First of all, these controls, it doesn't matter if the engine's running or not. The smoothness that you're seeing right here is never going to change. It doesn't matter if it's running or not because it's all fly-by-wire. So you have no mechanical cables, you just got wire connecting to the engine. Another advantage of this is that you've got cruise control that's automatic. So this, paired with your vessel view gauge, you can actually set your speed at 30 miles an hour. You hit go, and basically you just go full throttle. And then you can actually also control the acceleration profile. So you've got acceleration profiles that will control how fast it accelerates. So basically you'll just be full throttle. The boat will accelerate as per the acceleration profile you've chosen, and it'll go 30 miles an hour and it'll stay there. Also, the future of digital throttle and shift controls is that they are now coming with a built-in active trim. That's what these buttons are here for. So basically what that does is that the first time the boat goes out, we'll take you out on the water, we'll set up the profile so that your trim is where it needs to be. And then once that's programmed, basically you no longer have to trim your engine. It's going to automatically trim up and down as per the speed of the boat, the load of the boat, whether you're cornering, slowing down, accelerating. So that's a feature that we try to sell to almost every boat, because that's something that's going to save you money and fuel, because your boat's going to run more efficient. It's going to be trimmed very well all the time. Even people that are really great boat operators that are really finicky with their trim, I really find that the active trim is hard to beat. Looking at the transom of the Stabicraft 2050 Trekker, you'll see again just how this turns out. Now this is with hydraulic steering, but you can just see again just how neat and smooth and clean everything is. So as I said earlier, you know, hydraulic steering versus the extreme power steering, that's a discussion that that should be had during the boat purchasing decision, to explain the advantages and disadvantages of those two systems. We do have a separate video that actually talks about the differences in steering systems, so that's something that you might want to check as well. So here we have a Kingfisher 1925 Arrow. So as you look at this boat, it's going to be very similar to the Stabicraft we just showed you. So you got the Mercury vessel view gauge, we got the digital throttle and shift controls that we just talked about. And then if you look at the transom here, instead of hydraulic steering, this also has a 175 horse, the same as what the Stabicraft had. And in this case, we got the extreme electric power steering again. Now we're in a Kingfisher 3025 GFX. So what we got going on in this boat is basically the same thing with digital throttle and shift controls, only that there's dual controls for twin engines. You can see the vessel view gauge. We do have some electronics added in here. We've also got the joystick steering control in here. I should also point out that with the vessel view gauges that we put, as I said earlier, on pretty much all our boats in that 20-foot range is where they start, depending on which model. But what that vessel view gauge does for you is a lot. It actually tells you accurately your fuel burn. It tells you your maintenance on the engine. It tells you when service is due. It tells you the water temperature, the oil pressure. So if you couple it with a GPS sensor, it's going to tell you your speed. It will actually tell you your miles per gallon that you're getting, et cetera, et cetera. And the nice part about it is that it just complements any other electronics that you want to add to the boat. So I thought I should point that out as well. The big thing that we want to talk about here, since we were talking about steering systems, is on this steering system here, this has got EPS steering, so electronic power steering. So this is the most expensive. Of course, it's also the best steering system out there. As I said before, we do have a dedicated video to steering systems, but it's worth a repeat because this is something that's becoming more popular all the time. So with electronic power steering, basically it's like our digital throttle and shift controls. Everything is fly-by-wire. So there's no hydraulics, no oil, it's all fly-by-wire. And what's cool about this is that, now this isn't on right now, so I can turn the wheel freely, but even if this was running, this is the effort that's going to be involved with turning the wheels. And what's really important is that, you know, you get a boat where you bank a corner and you got it cranked hard one way or the other at say at that 20-mile-an-hour range where the boat is banked over. Even with hydraulic steering, etc., lots of times it's almost two hands on the wheel to pull it out of that. Here, it's always just fingertip control no matter what. The other thing is that we can program this for how many turns it is lock to lock. So we can control the steering ratio. So typically what we'll do is when the boat's off of step, which is typically less than 3,000 RPMs, we'll have the steering ratio at a higher ratio. So basically it's going to be, or lower ratio, however you want to look at it. So it'll be approximately 3.5 turns lock to lock. When you're on step, cruising, what's going to happen is that the steering ratio is going to increase to 5.5 turns lock to lock. And the advantage of that is that when you're around the dock, loading on the trailer, or trolling when you're fishing, the steering's very sensitive. Every quarter turn, those motors are moving quite a bit. If you're on rough water, you hit a wave and you jar the wheel like this, when you got 5.5 turns lock to lock, it's going to be way less sensitive, making it way more safe. So here's the engine part of the full EPS, electronic power steering system. You can see just how neat that is. And another key advantage here with twins is that we can also program the tow in and tow out. So basically when the boat is off step, we have zero tow in. So what I mean by zero tow in is that when you look at the back of the engines, they're going to be exactly in line together. As we get up on step, what will happen is that these engines will actually tow in. We usually program it to 1.5 degrees. And with that, and the reason for that is that our V-bottom boats, the water comes off the hull like this. So when the motors tow in, they actually have less resistance. So again, you gain performance and fuel economy. So that's something that a lot of people would not think of. So there's a quick shot of two 100-watt solar panels that are mounted on the roof of this 3425. And like I say, any boat with a hard top, we can pretty much configure some type of system that's going to work for your needs, because that's something, again, that deserves lots of conversation, understanding your needs. How much power do you need over a given amount of time? Those are things that we're going to work with our customers with to make sure we get it right. Another huge commitment that we make at Gibbons Motor Toys is making sure that our packages are set up properly. And what I mean by that is proper engine height, proper engine for the boat, and everything configured properly. That's including the prop, the setup, the whole package to work the way that it's meant to work best. So I can't tell you how many hours are spent trial and error, water testing, and then collecting the data and making sure that we give you the best performance possible. So some of these boats that you're looking at here is typically 175 horsepower and up is going to come standard with a stainless steel impeller. And I should probably just comment on that a little bit, is that with a stainless propeller, this is typically what we're using now in our V-bottom boats, and it doesn't matter if it's a Coyote, a Stabicraft, or a Kingfisher. The inertia propeller works pretty much the best. And what I mean by that is all-round performance. So it may not be the very fastest on the top end, it may not have exactly the fastest hole shot, but as far as ability to hold in rough water, to take corners with still having trim up positions, delivering a smoother ride, the inertia prop overall we found does work really, really well, and it's really difficult to beat. I also want to point out that inertia prop is, I believe it's close to like $1,400 these days. Keep in mind that lots of competitive propellers out on the market, they might be called stainless steel, but they might be a $700-800 propeller. So we're not compromising anything there, so you're getting the best value that you can. And I'll also point out that on the packages that say 150 horsepower and less that come standard with an aluminum propeller, we've also got the data to share with our customers so that if they do want to upgrade to a stainless propeller, we know exactly what pitch to put on it. And in some cases, engine height has to be changed when you go from an aluminum to a stainless impeller. So that's the kind of details that we put into making sure that that's done right. To back all this up, our website contains performance data on virtually every one of our boats. If it's not on there, it'll be coming. So basically, every boat you can see the full details of fuel economy, acceleration, top speed, and it's going to show you exactly which engine configuration with which propeller, the weather conditions, etc., are all going to be recorded there. So hopefully that helps you out during the buying decision as well, to give you all that important technical data for those that care about that. I also want to make a point that whether a customer pre-orders a boat and builds it to their exact specs, or if it's a boat that you're looking for that's in our dealer inventory, that a lot of the same thought processes go into how we build the boat. In a lot of cases, all of us as human beings, always feel that there's certain things that we want and need. It's our job to have our sales consultants really understand what your needs are so that the options can be picked that are going to suit those needs the best. So when we order boats for inventory that aren't pre-sold, we really do order them as if we're going to be the end user of that boat. So we have a team that will sit down, we'll look at the options, what's available, and typically what we're going to do is in lots of cases, there's options that make sense to order from the factory just because it's cost efficient. There's also other options that aren't so important to order at the time because they're easily added after the fact. So on that note, we will typically order the stuff that's most cost efficient to order from the factory. And keep in mind that at the end of the day, our experience has been is that most often, most people, by the time they go back and forth, discuss what's important to them, what features they need or don't need, we find that there's a lot of commonality between most boats that at the end of the day, almost every boat that's in our showroom, if it's not pre-sold, is going to have features that are going to work really well for most people. Another thing that we really take a lot of time with is making sure that once the boat is sold, is that once any additional accessories are being added to it, that our salespeople are continuously in the shop, taking pictures, being in contact with the customer, making sure that we mount the downriggers, the rod holders, the fish finders, etc., where the customer wants them. So we really try to do a really good job on making sure that the communications, getting all that stuff correct, is done properly in the first place. In the late 80s, we made the decision to become an exclusive Mercury dealer. Although there's good competition, we felt good supporting products that is mostly being built closer to home. And over the years, the continued support they have continued to build on is a huge benefit for us and our valued mutual customers. A good example is their investment in a distribution and training center in Abbotsford, BC. The benefit is quicker parts availability, and it makes it much easier for us to get our technicians trained and staying up to date just because it's closer to home. Another important point is Mercury's parent company, Brunswick Marine, is fully committed to the marine space. A good example is that they own many of the products that we now integrate with our systems. So an example would be Simrad and Lowrance products that fall under the Brunswick umbrella. They provide seamless integration and technical support when needed. So unlike our competition, which have typically several products in various markets, Brunswick is 100% committed to the marine space. Our customers benefit from us being exclusively Mercury because our techs and service support people are not distracted with having to be trained on multiple products, and therefore are allowing us to specialize in what we do best. Another example of enhanced customer service is an example here. We're in a 20-foot Kingfisher Falcon, and if you take a look in the glove box here, we'll have a QR code, which is going to help you out on the water for any technical support that you might need. So one of the last things that we take a lot of pride in doing is making sure that our customers are exposed to a very comprehensive water delivery experience. So we want to make sure that when a customer leaves, they're absolutely comfortable with all systems, how everything works on the boat. And that'll typically be scheduled for the customer to come in, you know, take care of the paperwork, etc., do a thorough walk around at the dealership when the boat's on the trailer, and then head off to the water and go over all operating systems to make sure that when you drive away, we know that everything is working the way it should. Hopefully this video has helped reveal some details that lots of times is overlooked when you're looking at a boat package. And in closing, I guess I just want to say that it's our goal to continue to evaluate the customer experience, and hopefully with details such as what we've provided here, it's going to help you make an informed decision so that you're getting the best value for your money. As always, if this video has been of any help, please subscribe to our YouTube channel to see more like it.